It's time.
All right, here we go.
The Cocktail Show.
Get ready to have a good time.
Let's have a good time.
This is exciting, isn't it?
Oh, I like that.
Hello, testing.
Welcome aboard the Dreamliner.
It's the only way to fly.
Wow.
I've allotted 1 hour for recreational activity. There's no time for irrelevant conversation. Fun will now commence.
Cocktail Show.
Garry.
Here's a young speaker who is really in demand.
Don't let that go to your head, Garry. But wait, there's more.
I'm the guy.
Finger guns.
Garry Meier.
3, 2, 1, 0.
This is the Garry Meier Show, Cocktail Hour, live. Live.
Cocktails. Ooh, drinks.
We're streaming live at 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 Central.
On a winter Friday in 2025. Gary, Leslie, or Ryan will tell you which one in just a moment. But in the meantime, of course, no matter where you are, it's time for a digital mimosa. And since you're here, you know that the only place to stream along live is
The GarrForceLIVE YouTube channel.
YouTube. Subscribe to the GarrForceLIVE YouTube channel.
All of the past editions of the Cocktail Hour can be replayed on the GarrForce Live YouTube channel.
Please like and share the show on all the social media channels.
Comments during the live show, wherever we are streaming, can be seen in our virtual studio
And we may show them on the screen.
and or talk about them.
Thank you for your attention.
Now, fasten your seatbelts. It's time to go wheels up on the GarrForce Live.
Live!
Live. Here we go. On America's podcast. Boom. Shakalaka.
Was Todd Pickering, the Puerto Rican doorbell of the GarrForce Cocktail Show. When he goes live, we're ready to go on your wintry Friday, and the only way to warm up is to put some kind of booze or something down your pie hole, and we'll do that with you. And we have a good one for you tonight, as Steve Harvey would say. My good friend John Roach will be here in a few minutes to talk about the late, great David Lynch and his relationship with David and how they work together on a movie. Before we do that, I have to kick the tires and light them up. And then Leslie's got to remove that wine condom after she takes the cat off her lap.
The cat took a powder. I don't know where she went, but she's downstairs yowling. I don't think she's doing so hot.
What's that?
She's not doing so hot.
What do you
these
mean?
days. She's 15, and I think she's getting a little,
She's getting a little old.
confused, if you
Yeah.
will.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well,
Tough to watch that.
too bad she can't have a nice New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. That might be the
That'll make
answer.
it better.
And look at this. We do have buildup. Whoop, whoop,
Yeah,
whoop.
it's gonna go.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Whoop.
Yeah, sideways.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheers,
that
everybody.
bodes well for the rest of the show.
Cheers. Oh yeah.
Are you got a real Manhattan this week, huh?
As opposed to a fake one.
Well, you weren't doing any Manhattan.
Well, I
I
couldn't.
guess you did have one last week.
I did, but
you were
during
dry
the
for a while.
illness, it was really tough because you don't have the taste for it, and things don't feel good the way they should. And yeah, I'm trying to get back on the horse.
Oh yeah, that's a rough one. Gee.
Yep. Yep. And we're gonna look at some peoples here that have checked in. And why don't we go to the top of the list? K.A., my schnauzer and I are rubbing each other to keep warm. Well, that's a good thing.
You know what though? Make sure that you moisturize because there are shocks involved. It's so dry up here in the northern states that touching your schnauzer, zap.
Ooh,
Yep.
ooh, Papa.
Mhm.
Martin's from British Columbia. I'm sure it's much warmer there. If you've ever been there, it's beautiful and more temperate. Brian from the house band Oh Yes, they will be at Sundance Saloon, Mundelein, Illinois, tomorrow night. If you're in that area, treat yourself to some live music. And Brian and that band deliver. And they will be on the program on Valentine's night. I believe Valentine's Day is on Friday.
Oh, is it?
Well,
Ooh, that's going to
he
be
wanted to be on the Feb 14 show, and that has to be a Friday.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Wow.
And
So,
you're giving
we
away
do
some.
have Oh Yes gear to give away today too.
Sounds good.
And some Bon Journey stuff too.
On Journeyed, one of the side bands that they do. Greg, it's me. It's Gregory D. Friday night. Let's party. Yes, we should. Ernest T. Bass style. And David, is it time to brush the frost off the schnauzer and give it a hug and kiss? Yes, Oaklawn, Illinois says that's what you do. Lloydster, Northwest Indiana. Always good to see you, Lloyd. And Roe, enjoying an early glass of Josh. Can't wait to hear from John Roach, longtime Garry friend. Yes, John has been on this.
I'm doing the Josh, but I decided to mix it up this week a little bit.
All right.
Yeah.
John's been on the show numerous times over the decades. We go way back. Bradley, Scottsdale, AZ. It's 64, not a cloud in the sky. Wow, finally, it's a manageable temperature in Arizona.
Well, so do they wear coats when it's 64 in Arizona?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that desert thing is like. Oh, it's chilly. Yeah, it's chilly. Mike, the robots are coming. The robots are coming. A band name for a 21st century Paul Revere and the Raider cover band. You know what I mean? Meme. Okay, I don't, but I'm sure you can Google that. Samantha, checking in. Hello, GarrForce. I have my mocktail of orange juice and cranberry juice. Oh, last week, Keely-Ann, in her message, she was directing it to my guest, Dan McNeil, and it went right over my head. And she was referring to an incident that Dan got involved in 5 years ago where he lost his job because he made a comment about this sports reporter. And that was the end of that job.
Whoopsie.
And she was referring to that. And it was 5 years ago. I didn't connect.
Dan's a plain talking guy. He's just whatever Dan's thinking, Dan shares. And, I kind of like that approach.
Sometimes I get them, sometimes I don't. Cindy is in the warm sunshine, SoCal.
Nice.
It's warmer with the fires even. Wow. Mark, greetings from Cedar Falls, Iowa. No brandy for my sweet old fashioned, so I'm subbing Captain Morgan.
Okay.
And 3, I probably won't notice.
Yeah.
Speaking of Iowa, that will be part of the conversation I have with John Roach because the movie he co-wrote that was directed by David Lynch is set in Iowa. That's where it starts. And Leslie and I were talking about the movie the other day, and on the pre-board show that was posted this morning, I played a piece from the movie soundtrack, and it is just listening to that instrumental is emotional.
Hauntingly emotional. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I found myself tearing up and some of the scenes are just so beautiful and bucolic. I mean, watching a combine work a field, it was just. Ugh.
Yeah, it is a perfect movie anytime, but in the middle of winter, because this was set in summer and you're going through the heartland of America, and it was such a beautiful piece of cinematography. And I think that's a good lead in to bring John up right now and start talking about the straight story. John, welcome.
Hey, Garry. Hi, Leslie. Thanks for having me.
Last week, David Lynch died. And as I have mentioned this week, the way he died was very Lynchian in that he had to escape his house in Southern California because of the fires. And then he died a few days later. And you talked to him a couple days before he died.
I didn't talk to him. I sent him an email when first of all, my son's out in LA and he had to evacuate his house. He's a singer-songwriter out there. And so we worried about him. And then I don't know if you remember, there was the Eaton Canyon fire and then there's the Palisades. But then in the middle of the first night, a fire popped up in the Hollywood Hills. And I saw the shot of it. And I knew it was 4 blocks from David's house where I worked in his compound doing the first couple drafts of the straight story. And I sent him a note. I said, Dave, I'm sending the cool, damp Wisconsin wins to battle the California fire gods. Stay safe. And I knew that he had some compromised health. He had announced it. And then 2 days later, just the gut punch news that he had passed, which I'm going to be sad for a while.
Let's talk about how you initially met David Lynch.
Sure. So, I'm a good Catholic schoolboy, grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and went to Blessed Sacrament Grade School and Edgewood High School. And there was a girl who, our families were friends. Her name was Mary Sweeney. Her dad and my dad were friends. And, Roach Sweeney, we probably sat together alphabetically a lot. But we were friends all the way through grade school and high school. And especially in high school, we weren't boyfriend, girlfriend, but I think we were friends because we ended up doing similar stuff. I went into production, writing, directing, and the broadcast level. Mary went to the NYU Film School and then went out to Hollywood, and she was an editor. She was an assistant editor on the film Reds, and then worked as an assistant editor on Blue Velvet. She called me and said, "John, I'm working on a film that is going to rock some people with this director, David Lynch." And I knew of David before I met him because I thought Elephant Man was as good a film as was ever made. It got, I think, 8 Academy Award nominations, and it was a spectacular film. And so Mary and Dave end up romantically involved. And I met Dave in San Francisco while they were doing the sound mix for Fire Walk with Me in Saul Zant's big compound studio, and had a chance to meet him there. And then when Mary would come to Madison for Christmas, or they had a lake home in Madison in the summers, I would, they'd invite me over for dinner. I would hang with Dave while Mary did stuff with her sisters, like make Christmas cookies and, she's from a big sprawling Irish Catholic family. So when she came back from LA, she wanted to see them. And I would just take Dave out, for a glass of wine. I'd take him to dive bars, take him golfing. And we, became friends. He was a really good guy. He worked at a tandem press, print manufacturing facility associated with the university, where he did some prints and stuff. So I'd run him over there. And he was just an incredibly affable guy. And just became friends and talked about stuff and film and everything, and just became friends. And then a little into that burn, Mary reached out to me, and she had been an editor on Twin Peaks, which was a series and is a grind. And she said, "John, I'm getting a little weary of editing. Would you be interested in collaborating on a screenplay?" And I said, "Sure, Mary. This is a woman I've known all my life. She's in the arts. I'm in the arts." And I said, and I had dabbled in screenwriting, when I was in Chicago, and I wrote every day, doing TV shows, and, writing is an essential act for what I was doing. And so I said, "Well, what are we going to write about?" She goes, "Well, let's just chew on it." So about a week later, remember, this is 1998. I get a fax, and it's an article in the Washington Post about an old man named Alvin Strait, who was driving his John Deere lawnmower, not a tractor, a lawnmower, across the state of Iowa to Wisconsin to visit his dying brother, from whom he had been estranged. And I said, "Whoa, this is interesting." And as it turned out, my brother had met this guy, because my brother Jim is an audio guy, and he was a stringer for ABC, and they had interviewed him on his way. And so I was aware of the story. So I said, "Mary, Mary, let me call him up." So I called up Alvin Strait, got a hold of him. He was back in his home of Lorenz, Iowa. And he's, as my dad would say, he was a tough old cob. He tested me, but I worked on farms and stuff. I knew guys like this my whole life. So I handled him fine. And I just expressed to him our interest in optioning the rights, that Mary had interest in optioning the rights for his story to write a screenplay. And he goes, "Well, you got here a little late, because I just sold the rights to Ray Stark and Larry Gelbart. Ray Stark owned the Superman franchise, and Larry Gelbart owned the MASH franchise. So these were big hitters, which at least we knew we were on the right track if those guys were interested in the story." But Mary, God bless her, kept monitoring the status of the option, and Stark and Gelbart let it lapse, and Mary swooped in and got the option. She cut the deal with Alvin's kids because Alvin had passed in the interim. And so she said, "What do you think? You want to go try to figure this story out?" And I said, "Yeah." And it took some forbearance from my wife because I had been on the road working. I said, "Hun, I want to do this spec screenwriting thing. I'm going to have to be in Iowa for, 10 days and probably out in LA for 10 days." And we had 3 kids, 10, 12, 13. But she gave me the blessing, which it never would have happened if she hadn't said, "Yeah, go for it." Because it was spec.
Right. So you did it as a spec, and you were going to pitch it to David or just pitch it to anybody?
That was never the plan, ever. I mean, think about it, Garrett.
Yeah.
David Lynch doing a movie about a guy in a lawnmower in Iowa.
Right. After Eraserhead and Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks. Yeah.
So I never entertained the notion. So Mary and I went to Lorenzo, Iowa, and met Alvin's family. And then there was a journalistic component to it in that no one really knew what his route was. We'd pick up bits and pieces. And, we started out going to the local newspaper, every time. And I said, "Mary, that's not the way to do it. Well, follow me." So I would go to the tavern on the main drag of these Iowa farm towns, and I'd walk in at 10 or 11 in the morning, and there'd be these retired farmers nursing a beer and a cribbage board. And I'd just say, "Hey, you guys, my name's John Roach. I'm from Madison. I'm from Wisconsin. And we're trying to figure out the route that this old guy took on his riding mower. Did he come through town?" And they would all get up and they'd tell me the story. So we really got a lot of information from local farmer taverns, which makes all the sense in the world, really, if you know the culture.
How long was the route? 400 miles? Is that the number?
350.
Okay, 350.
Right. It took him about 6 weeks.
So he's driving on the side of 2-lane highways for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And that's legal to do?
I don't think he asked permission, but if you've been on those small farm roads, there's all sorts of combines and everything driving on him, so I can't imagine he had a problem.
Did you hear that he got stopped by authorities at all?
I think he got stopped once in town, going through bigger towns. Okay. And they escorted him through the town.
And he pulled a trailer that had camping equipment, and at night he would pull over.
It was a trailer with plywood walls that he would sleep inside of. And he had a cooler behind his seat that he kept Swisher Sweets and hot dogs, cold hot dogs.
And when you got the script going, and now you're going to find a director or a studio. How does it work?
So we did the research. Then I flew out to Los Angeles to work at Mary and David's house up in the Hollywood Hills. Beautiful compound. Totally an artist community. It was just a spectacular environment to work. And the process is you do a scene outline, 70 to 80 scenes, and then you go back in and you start writing scene by scene. So I was there for 8 or 9 days. I'd stay at the Sunset Marquis, and I was on Central Time. And whenever I shoot in LA, I'm up at 3 or 4 in the morning. I'm up when guys are getting in. It's weird. And I'm an early riser in the Midwest. So I would be up going over the notes, researching, and then I'd head up to Mary and David's house at 8 or 9 in the morning. The coffee was great. And Mary and I went into a small room, and we just worked for 12 hours, 10 to 12 hours a day, just jamming. And we were in the groove. I mean, we were, you get certain projects where they're a little blessed. And very early on, we got in a groove on that thing where we were in the movie. I felt like I was, at least. When you have those experiences where you're working on a project and writing, and you look up and 3 hours has passed. And that's how a lot of it felt to me.
When did it get to David? When did it get into his hands?
Well, we wrote 8 drafts over 10 months. And when on the 4th of July of 1998, Mary said, "Would you mind if I showed this to David for notes?" And I said, "Of course not. I mean, who wouldn't want notes from David Lynch? It's not it. You also live, Garrett, in a little dread fear of getting notes from David Lynch. We were both. I mean, we were kind of first-time screenwriters. I mean, I'd done a lot of writing, so I was no amateur, and Mary had a wealth of experience. But
still, this is a big deal.
But I mean, it would be a thrill to get notes from David, right? I mean, he'd give great notes. So I'm up at our cabin. You've been to Roach Lake here, although not the cabin that we built, but. I'm up there with the family, and I'm not pensive, but I'm interested to see what David has to say. And Mary gives me a call, and I go, "Hey, Mary, so what's the verdict?" And she goes, "Well, David has asked us not to show the script to anyone." And I said, "Well, that's either really good news or really bad news." It's like, you can't put this out there. You're going to embarrass my ass just because I know you. And then they came back to Madison a couple weeks later in July, and they had a beautiful lake home on the lake. They had a beautiful antique Chris Craft that they would fly around the lake. They were like Hepburn and Tracy. And David and I'd been over there for dinner. They'd had the family over for dinner, the kids, everything. They were very generous. Mary was very generous. David was generous, and they had a young son, Riley, who was a little younger than my son, JT. So. David asked Mary to take down a good bottle of wine, and he cracks the wine, pours 3 glasses, and Garry, like mass, like a preset mass, he held up this glass of wine and said, "Mary and John, I would like the permission to direct your script." He did it with a certain Hollywood ritual/tradition respect. It was an absolutely beautiful moment. And then very quickly, and he didn't make any notes to the script, Garry. He didn't change a thing.
Wow.
Yeah. So they sent the script out with Dave attached, and they had 4 or 5 studios interested right away. And Dave was like, "Yeah, I'm getting a little tired about hearing how good this script is," because it was the first film that he had sent out with his name attached that he hadn't written the script. It's the only film.
Did I say this right over the past week, that this is the only movie he directed that he did not write? The
Correct.
only one.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is a strange honor to have for Mary and myself.
So a studio picks it up, and now you're in business?
So it's shot, but they hadn't landed on the lead. So Mary calls me one day and says, "Well, John, Gregory Peck is reading our script in the south of France today." Jack Lemmon came over and asked for the script because he said, "David, you got to lead with an old guy. I'm old." They talked about John Hurt, who had been an Elephant Man. And then someone brought up Richard Farnsworth's name, which was a lightning bolt, because it is as good a piece of casting as you would ever find. If there's anyone born to play this role, it was Richard. But it was tough to, for people who don't know who Richard Farnsworth is, he was in Anne of Green Gables. He was in The Natural. He was in Misery. He was in a number of films. He was a character actor going all the way back to Spartacus and stuff like that. He's a stuntman.
He was in the Marx Brothers movie,
yeah.
I believe.
No, he used to handle horses for Humphrey Bogart, Jimmy Stewart. He went so far back. And then, he got a lot of attention for Canadian film Silver Fox. So they went after him, and his face is just beautiful. He's got just a luminous likability and beauty about him. So, but Richard hesitated at first for 2 reasons. First of all, he was in ill health, and we learned later he was terminal when he did the film. He had a terminal cancer diagnosis. He walked with 2 canes, and he goes, "Dave, I can't even walk. I walk with 2 canes." And David goes, "So does Alvin." So, and then Richard had some hesitation about working with David, given the nature of some of the films he had done. And Mary told me that when the agent was talking with Richard, David just kept yelling, "Tell him to watch Elephant Man. Tell him to watch Elephant Man." And then finally Richard came around. And then they cast Sissy Spacek as his daughter, who is cognitively challenged. And I have an anecdote about that. I came out to the first week of shooting, and Mary charged me with bringing New York Times for all the director and, crew and wardrobe stagehands, and a bottle of scotch for Freddie Francis, who was the director of photography, who won an Academy Award for Glory. And so I bring that out there, and they're all in town in Pocahontas, Iowa, doing their laundry in the laundromat, big time Hollywood. And so I'm sitting in this parking lot. It's a gravel parking lot with a picnic table. I've got a stack of New York Times. I opened the scotch and took a little of Freddie's scotch, and I hear a car pull up behind me, and a window roll down, and I just hear a honey drawl go, "Are you John Roach? I'm Sissy. I love your script." I'm like, pinch me.
Sissy Spacek?
Yeah. And so then they started shooting, and they shot in 6 weeks. And then they went dark for over 6 months, as Dave called it, the cone of silence, because that's the director, the editor, the composer, Angelo Badalamenti. And then they finished shooting in mid-October. And then I heard from Mary around Christmas time. She just called, and she said, "John, how you doing?" I go, "Good, Mary." She goes, "So I just got back from Paris screening the film for the Cannes selection jury, and I think our lives are going to change a little bit. Now put Diane on. I have to tell her how many gowns to buy."
So
and then
you were in that whirlwind for a while.
Yeah, and then we premiered at Cannes, the Red Steps.
Wow.
And it was very well received. And then it was Cannes was unbelievable, Garry. I mean, and again, me, Garry. I'm a Wisconsin guy, and I've had some success, but to be, have Disney fly us over first class to Cannes, and they took us everywhere in limos with flags on the bumpers, and it was
flags
unreal.
on the bumpers. There you go.
Yeah,
now you've really made it. Did
and those gendarmes, the gendarmes with the pillbox hats.
Did Richard Farnsworth go on these?
Oh God,
jaunts?
yeah, no, the whole cast. The thing about the Cannes Film Festival is it's a celebration of the artists. So the directors are honored, the writers, the actors, the composers. It's not about hotshot producers, and so we were treated like royalty. And
so
David,
this was a great victory lap for a man who's got terminal cancer, because a year later he took his life.
Right, and David is beloved in France, beloved, and so being in his entourage at Cannes was a scene, a scene. And when they talk about the paparazzi, the press conference we did for the film had to have had 350 reporters in the room. It was like, it was like, it was 350 people just jammed. And they saw the film in the morning before I saw it, before anyone but Dave. So then the premiere, you go up the Red Steps, and it's in the Palais de Cinema, which is the greatest movie theater in the world. And again, Garry, there's some ritual. When the director stands at the top of the stairs coming in, everyone in the audience stands. And then the writers, actors, composers, everyone walk down. And then David and Mary walk down last. And we file into our seats. And as soon as the director's ass hits the seat, the room goes dark and the film rolls. And the first title frame is Walt Disney Presents a David Lynch film. And the crowd laughed out loud.
Yeah, as you would imagine. Yeah. So Harry Dean Stanton is also in this movie.
Yeah.
And is great. And the Farley brothers, Chris Farley's brothers, are in this.
Yeah, Johnny and Kevin. I get a little tip in on that because I knew Chris. He was a Madison guy. He played high school football with my brothers. I talked to him before he went down to Second City. Because I had been, I'd been down there working with you guys, Garry. And And then Chris had just passed, and I just mentioned to Mary, I said, the Farley brothers live in Madison, and you could at least audition them, and they did, and they were in the film, and they were over in Cannes. They brought their mother with them.
I was talking to Leslie about that scene in the bar where Alvin is sitting next to this guy and reminiscing about his World War II memories. And you said that partially was taken from my father's tape that I play every year.
Absolutely. So there are two things there. One incident in the film, in that scene, is not totally based in real life, but then there's a scene where the other guy sees his friends destroyed by a bomb hitting a mess tent. That happened to David Lynch's father. But the feeling of the scene, to me, felt a lot like the Battle of the Bulge letters that you guys would read at Christmas time. That it's the echo of voices long ago. And I was very much aware of having listened to your dad's letters as I was doing this. And if you notice that scene, it's solemn. It's very intimate. Because it's old men finally letting go of memories that they've held inside for 50 years, which a lot of them did.
Yeah.
And so that scene got a lot of attention. That was a pretty good scene.
Well, the movie is I don't even know do you think it could be made today? Would they make this movie today?
I have no idea.
I mean, really, this is
well,
where
it's such a contrarian notion, Garry. A 78-year-old lead riding a lawnmower. What pitch meeting would that fly in LA?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
But that's the beauty of David. He was a true artist. He was a contrarian. He was never on the nose. He didn't follow the herd. He honestly made movies to make movies, not to make money, even though he made some. But he turned down Star Wars 3. He said he went to a meeting with Lucas, and the longer the meeting went with Lucas, the worse his headache got. Because they had all these things, and
yeah, it's not his bag.
So no, I don't know. I was so lucky to be a part of it, and I stand by the writing. We worked hard on this thing. Took it very seriously as a piece of work. And the real luck was that we wrote a piece that moved David. Because when he cleared his throat and said he wanted to do it, everything happened. And Mary Sweeney was the driver of it. I was her wingman, but she edited it, she produced it, and then she wrote it with me. And she believed in the project. I don't think she knew Dave would be interested. But when he jumped in, it just accelerated everything very quickly. But Mary just was remarkable in it. Here's an anecdote of Mary's. I don't know if I'm going too long here, but after the scene outline, you have to sit down and start writing scenes, and you have to start writing dialogue. Well, Alvin had passed. I'd only talked to him for 5 minutes on the phone. So his voice was critical to the film. He was the lead. He had 2/3 of the dialogue. And so we're talking about it. And Mary, it's one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen. Mary goes, I just read this article, a review in the New York Times about a guy during the Depression who went around and recorded horse traders. Guys would go from town to town trading horses, and they also acted like a newspaper almost. And she said, and Alvin was a horse trader. So she goes online to this little website called Amazon and orders the Horse Trader book, and we get it the next day. And I take it back to my hotel, the Sunset Marquis, which is a great hotel, rock and roll hotel.
What, do you get a discount now? I hope.
And I got up the next morning at 4:00 and wrote down all these phrases that these horse traders were using, and realized very quickly that this was language that my dad also used. My dad played minor league baseball in the 50s. And when in Appleton, Wisconsin, all these little small towns, and you sit in dugouts for a long time when you play minor league baseball, and you sit on buses a long time, and most of the baseball players are country boys. They're not. My dad was a college boy. They didn't have a lot of college boys. They were country boys. They would, play baseball for a toothbrush and a cot. But my dad was with these guys, and my dad had all this kind of language. So it just like locked. It's like, I know this voice. And Mary did too, because her father grew up as an Irish farmer outside of Madison. He had like 5 brothers, the Sweeney brothers, and they had a farm southwest of Madison. So they're all farm boys. So that Mary grew up in that culture as well. And but her idea to order that book, I am amazed by to this day. And there are words there's words in the script that fit just right because of her idea.
Well, it's all on film. It came through perfectly. And if you've not seen this movie, you really, I think, will be glad you looked at it, because it's so different than what's out there today. What are you drinking, by the way, John?
Sure. I'm drinking a wheat drink here. It's called
Heirloom. What?
Wheat, THC. THC. It's tremendous.
What's
Comes
it
from
called?
an orchard in New Hampshire called Heirloom. 5 milligrams. Try it.
Yeah.
But I do want to say one thing, Garry. It was such a blessing to get to work with David. He was such a sweet guy, and everyone he worked with, he loaned his talent to them. If you talk to people who work with him, they just love him because he had such a commitment to his craft. Obviously, a different point of view. I view him, frankly, as the Hitchcock of his generation. Hitchcock wasn't commercially successful, but he was the coolest director of his time. And Dave, in many ways, was too. But Dave was just such a generous guy with his talent. He was an incredibly unique talent, an incredibly prolific and hard worker. And other than my family, the ability to work with David is one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me.
Well, Mel Brooks called David the Jimmy Stewart from Mars.
Yeah. But that's a good line. But frankly, Dave was a genius in his own way. And, when you work in the arts, your real dream is to create something that lasts after you're gone. And I knew when I saw The Straight Story, sitting there in France with Diane, that long after I was dead and gone, people would be watching that movie and hearing the words that Mary and I wrote. And as someone in the arts, that is immensely satisfying.
Well, it is a beautiful movie. And as I said, if you're looking for something to warm you up on a winter's night, this should do it. John, it's always a pleasure.
Hey, Garry, love you, and hang in there. And, I think spring arrives in Pennsylvania like in August, right?
Right after Iowa, Wisconsin, Indiana. Yeah. Wherever you are, wherever we're going east. Thank you, John.
Well, it's always great seeing you, Garry. Oh, hey, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I did a premiere of The Straight Story in Chicago for friends. I invited my sports writer guys. I invited a bunch of people. I was kind of saddened how many people didn't show, but you showed. And you came up to me afterwards and said, John, this is a little American masterpiece. And there are a lot of people who actually share that opinion, Garry.
Well, it's not just because I know you. I was just blown away when I saw it. And also, Leslie just put on a chat here with me. Richard Farnsworth was in Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, right.
Uncredited. I mean, you have to go way, way down in his filmography.
He was a
Treasure of Sierra Madre.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what an incredible actor, and just nailed that part. So,
all right, John, thank you.
Thanks, you guys, and wherever you are, Dave Lynch, sail on, and thank you. Bye-bye.
John Roach reporting from Wisconsin.
A lot of people recognize the humor in Walt Disney Pictures presents a David Lynch film.
I mean, you talk about two ends of the spectrum.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, Lordy.
All right. Well, I'm going to watch it again over the weekend. I'm just really in the need and mood for that.
And it turns out it's still, you can buy or rent it, just go online.
Yeah.
And somebody was pointing out that your local library, if you need to rent, and they'll probably have a copy too. So, or they can get it.
Yeah. All right. Well,
oh, heavens. It's nice when like a local boy makes it in the big time.
That's good. And you want to preview some more of the things you're going to give away? I know you showed us some yes stuff.
I did. I mentioned that we have some Bond Journeyed and yes gear, as we usually do. Tracy from Wisconsin, since we're on a Wisconsin thing, provides us with bendables and now gliders and slinkies. We still have a few slinkies left. We are out of ball liquors, but I think Tracy has more. Let's face it. She is our Wisconsin swag mama, and so we're happy with everything she sends.
Oh yeah.
So I think we're good. We've got some stickers, some wacky stickers. Houston, we have a problem, and scene from Pulp Fiction, since we're into the film thing. Our friend Scott from Scott's Vintage Antiques and Collectibles provides us with famous feats of baseball. We've got a Honus Wagner card in here, along with a Babe Ruth and a Ty Cobb. Isn't that special?
Oh.
He also provided us with a really cool patch that you can sew on your jacket. It's a spider. And fortune-telling fish. God knows everybody needs fortune-telling fish. I'm giving you 2 this week because that's how generous we are. Our friend Alan Delinka, who is currently not with us today.
Well, Alan wanted a few weeks off, and we gave it to him. I can't argue.
He's traveling. If Alan says, I want to turn off the lights, turn off the lights.
He says he's traveling, but he just wants to stay home and not be with us. Let's be honest.
Screw it. He's the one who gives us our refrigerator magnets. I think it was it? I don't know who provided me with fake cockroaches. So there's a faux cockroach. Oh, what a way to really scare your friends. And finally, the prize that started it all, your very own
that is a hefty package. Here's the phrase I'm going to use this week. Hashtag lawnmower. Hashtag lawnmower. Put that in the queue, and then Ryan will push the button, and somebody will win all that stuff. You just open that package when you get it and just look at it. Look at it. Well, there's Angry.
Somebody asked for her. She reads the comments. Screw you! I come when I want to. Oh, and I don't think you come nearly enough. There you go.
Oh, wow, that's commentary. All right, and Ryan is with us in 3-dimensional style. Ryan, how are you? You're muted.
Hey, I'm okay.
Ryan pointed out, hey, you like the blinds?
Yes.
I go, wow.
They're from like 1980. They're in my office here, and we haven't updated them, and it was a busy week, so I just thought I'd do most of the behind the scenes here and not care about my junky blinds.
No, okay. Looks like somebody got pushed into them. But
have you PO'd the dean of students or something?
But I do have a word, and I don't know if I used the word last week. Crash out. Did I use that word on the show?
So
you had mentioned
your son.
So we took. I think Leslie and you had mentioned we took his technology away, and he lost his ever loving mind. I mean, like swears and just lost his mind. And then later that night, he said, "Sorry, Dad, I crashed out." And I said, "Crashed out? What's that mean?" "Oh, I just went insane." And apparently, that's the slang word these days. Crash out.
How long was he denied his technical stuff?
A week.
Did he make it a whole week?
Yes, and we got our son back.
Yeah.
I mean,
Tracy, he actually made eye contact with you?
Sat down and did puzzles and just back to the old days. So.
And how did he like it when he got kind of used to it?
Oh, he still was like 2 more days, 1 more day. I mean, he was still itching. He didn't forget about it, but
yeah,
So it's
that can't be good
like
in the long run.
It's like cocaine. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a drug, and it hits them hard, and it's a lesson learned, and it kind of worked out well. I mean, we were trimming him back, and it just was kind of all of the good. But crash out is my new word for the week.
Okay.
A lot of schools are doing the no personal devices route, and they're saying it is incredible. Like, folks are actually talking to each other.
Kid back.
Are learning things again, and it's cut down on a lot of the bullying and all sorts of other negatives. So crazy. Might be
well, when TikTok went down for a few hours last Sunday, I heard from people.
Everybody crashed out.
where they were freaking, and I'm thinking, really? Really? And this is how we are plugged in now, and with AI as a topper, I don't know where the hell this is all going.
It will tell us, because we bow to our new overlords, and we just hope that they take mercy and do not launch rockets in our direction. Thank you, AI.
Yep. All right, you have pictures. Let's do the sponsors, and then show us some pictures, and we'll go on to stories, and you know what we do here.
Yep, here we go.
First of all,
Get the best sales and service experience now at Bettenhausen on 159th Street in Tinley Park. Bettenhausen has a new look, but the same automotive DNA lives on. Get Bettenhausen's no hassle, no haggle buying experience. Whether you're looking for a new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, or reliable certified used, Bettenhausen has the vehicle for you with over 900 to choose from. Plus, our state-of-the-art service department is here to keep your vehicle at top performance. Showroom and service scheduling never closes at BettenhausenCDJR.com.
In Illinois, if you're wondering where Tinley Park is. And I talked to David Hochberg today. This guy has such a wealth of knowledge about mortgages and things. You have to talk to him if you're thinking of reverse mortgages or loans of that nature, because he knows it all. And you don't want to go with somebody you're not sure of, because this is a very intense negotiation that you're going to be doing here with the bank and whatever.
Home sales were crazy down last year. I just saw that headline.
And
I only read the headlines. The rest of the story, who cares about?
The word in his catchphrase, which is the word trusted. You're trusted, right? Right, guy. That's
and when he
trusted.
says free consultation, he means it. He's just willing to talk you through.
Yeah, and they're licensed in 43 states. All right, Ryan, what do you got?
Back. Hang on.
Yeah, this is a
Want
horse
some bread
made out of bread.
Ooh, that looks yummy.
It does, doesn't it?
Majestic. Yes.
I wonder if it's a sourdough.
Yeah, how do you even make that?
Ooh, but imagine that right next to the butter cow from the state fair. Oh, this is a match.
Slather it.
Heaven. Yes.
Slather it.
I don't know if we showed this last week, but it's worth showing again.
Well, you know what we posted? We posted that smorgasbord on an airplane back in the 60s or 70s. They had a big hunk of meat on the plane, and that's all gone, as is this. Look at this. This was on an airplane at one point.
Like a plane.
Yeah. People well-dressed, big food carts.
I've never
I got some guy clipping his nails in the corner, and I'm talking toe, not fingers. Even fingernails too.
We're headed in the right direction.
Yep, absolutely. What else do I have? Oh, I just put this. Look at the yesteryear. I don't know if I would have combined these two, but I guess it was a big deal back then to Hellman mayonnaise and Skippy peanut butter. It is.
Oh, I don't know.
Now, I've had peanut butter on apples, and that's actually kind of tasty.
But there's one like pickled bacon. I don't know. I just saw it pop up, and I thought, I don't know if and I'm kind of a Miracle Whip person, because we always had Hellman's during a kid.
Right.
When I was a kid. So now it's like,
Yeah.
What else do I have? Oh, guess what is coming to Oak Creek, Wisconsin, which is 20 minutes from me? Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's.
Big news out of Wisconsin today. So there's one in DeForest that's going to open, which is by Madison, and then Oak Creek, Wisconsin, right by Mitchell International Airport, Milwaukee Airport. So
and you've been to ones in the South, and you say they're super clean.
Yeah.
Bathrooms, everything's super clean.
Yep.
Oh,
It's
incredibly huge bathrooms, but
Yes,
no place to eat your breakfast sandwich. Those Asians
No.
made me sit in the car, and there was
Well, they don't
no
want you
place to sit.
slopping the place up. They're keeping
I
it clean.
guess.
Yeah. So everybody's saying Quick Trip's probably not happy. They're the kind of the local dominant, but they're all over. So I don't think this is going to hurt Quick Trip. It's just everybody's like losing their mind.
And the
What
gas
about
is much.
Marvin's and the Come and Goes. How are they doing?
What about the gas prices? Are they cheaper or about the same as everybody
I
else?
think they're comparable, but they've got so many gas pumps, and then the last like 20 of them are alcohol free, so no 10% ethanol. It's straight whatever, so it's more money. But yeah, it's quite the experience. So I didn't read where it is, but it's in Oak Creek, and as I said, everybody's just losing their mind in Wisconsin that it's coming.
All right. That's what
Gas
we lose our minds
prices are
about.
coming down around this neck of the woods.
Okay.
They are.
And we lose our mind over TikTok and Buc-ee's and
and when you take the technology away, it's just.
Well, you did when you went to that one. You did get me a Buc-ee magnet, which
They've got everything: Buc-ee magnets, Buc-ee pajamas, anything.
Shot glasses,
Buc-ee underwear, probably.
T-shirts.
Yeah, I didn't look. And then, if you're lucky, Buc-ee the mascot will be there, and everybody hugs and takes pictures and does all of that. So
sure. All right. That it?
That is it.
All right. Thanks, Ryan. Leslie, you've got some stories?
I do. Here we were just talking films and scores and that sort of thing. The nation of Saudi Arabia is asking for Oscar-winning composer Hans Zimmer to help in improving its image, beginning with their national anthem. According to Saudi sources, the man whose musical credits include The Lion King, The Dark Knight, and Dune has agreed to the quote-unquote broad outlines of this proposed project, a project that will include reworking the Saudi national anthem to give it a more international flair. Beyond that, Zimmer is also in talks to develop a musical called Arabia and create the soundtrack for a film called The Battle of Yarmouk.
What is have you heard their current anthem?
I have a feeling it's done with like.
Yeah, I'm going to stereotype probably. Right?
You know what? Tune in on Monday's show, and I will try and find the Saudi national anthem for you.
Yeah, if we can. I don't know. We might not have the licensing for it.
It's the Saudi national anthem.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we stand for it? I don't think so. And let's see here. Oh, we talked about this one on the pre-board. A woman in North Carolina is charged with driving under the influence after crashing the golf cart she was driving, injuring the 5 children who were also aboard. Elizabeth Prochaska was trying to negotiate a roundabout in Wake Forest when she flipped the golf cart she was driving. 5 children, ranging in age from 5 to 9, were thrown from the cart, causing injuries, luckily none of which were life-threatening. They were, along with Ms. Prochaska, transported to a hospital for treatment. The kids were then turned over to the custody of, they say, responsible parents. Meaning that I think Ms. Prochaska was not the mom of all these kids. She was found to be impaired and arrested on charges of driving under the influence, child abuse, and reckless driving.
Leslie, those kids were turned over before they were turned over.
They were turned over.
Yeah. Here's Alvin Strait. He goes 350 miles on a lawnmower, and this woman goes 30 yards.
On a golf cart and can't keep it together. And there was no trailer on the back.
No.
And finally, a man in Pennsylvania is facing charges after shooting an Instacart driver who was trying to deliver groceries to the shooter's wife. Apparently, 44-year-old Nicholas Sabo was unaware that his wife had placed an order with Instacart. And when his home security system alerted him that the delivery man was approaching this home, it was a mobile home, as if that matters.
It doesn't.
The delivery man was approaching. Mr. Sabo then opened fire, striking the victim in both legs. He says, says one of the officers involved in the case, he goes out, sees the individual, and No verbal confrontation, no nothing, just shoots. The driver was taken to the hospital and treated for the bullet wounds to his legs. Sabo is charged with reckless endangerment with additional charges still pending.
Yes, this doesn't cast any shadows on mobile home parks. There are a lot of nice ones out there.
Oh, yeah.
And you just said it because it's in the story.
It's the story. And I'm all about the facts. When I don't read the headlines, sometimes I actually do try to get those facts right.
So you just see a guy, you don't ask any questions, you just open fire.
Well, yeah. Makes perfect sense. No, it makes no sense.
Yeah. It happens all the time.
Oh, golly.
All
Well,
right.
at least he's getting his comeuppance here, I think.
All right, is that it?
I think so.
All right, well, it's time to push the button and give away some.
Thanks for stopping by The Loop, FM 98, WLUP Chicago.
Yes.
Love that Steely Dan.
Yeah. Good morning.
Sorry, I like that sound clip. So
I'll bet you do, Brian. I'll bet you
I
do.
I was 1 year old when you were rocking those tunes. So.
Okay. I was working all nights at this radio station, and you were born in what year, Ryan?
77, and this little sound clip says it's 78.
Yeah. So I always do this thing in my head where you're with people now, but you go back, and when they were bringing him home from the hospital, I was on the radio. And
spinning the records.
Right. And then his parents turned to him and said, someday you're going to work with this guy that's on the radio. And he is.
This was before you even met John Roach. You were such a newbie.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say where I was at that point in time.
Okay. You're still younger than I am. All right. Here's the button.
Always will be.
Let's push the button. Who's going to win? Who is it? Who is it? It's PK
Rebs.
PK Krebs. So what should PK do, Ryan?
Send your USPS mailing address to Gary's email address, GarryMeierShow@GarryMeier.com, or text 773-888-2157. Regular charges apply, and Leslie will get the gift out to you shortly.
Yeah. All right.
Gonna
get a slinky. All right. We got a tailwind. We're going to bring her in early.
Christina. Some more.
What's that? What'd you say?
I said if you were, I don't know, something just went weird and popped up on my screen. But if you were last week's winner, Christina, something maybe got mixed up here, or you haven't sent your deets yet. I have your prize package here. I want to send it out to you. So get in.
All right.
Get in touch.
We will do that. We're not going to hit the top of the hour. We're going to get a tailwind, take us in early. I hope you don't mind. You're okay?
Oh.
Good. We'll talk to you on Monday.
There.
Here is the cannoli coming down the aisle. It's delicious. Please take it. It's complimentary. What about the schnauzer this weekend?
Why not take your schnauzer to heaven or Iowa and take it for a ride on a riding lawnmower? See how that feels.
That's good in January. 3 in the green. Gear is down. Flaps are down. The voice of the globe, America's podcast, the GarrForce has landed.
And that's all the news and nonsense for this week, GarrForce. Thank you for streaming.
If you like that, I got other stuff I think you're going to like. This is the GarrForce.
Please be sure to like and share the show on all of your social networks.
More eyeballs.
If you're not already a subscriber, show your support by subscribing to GarrForceLIVE YouTube channel. For those watching a replay, that button is right here. All the rest of our episodes, right here.
Boom.
Hello?
Shakalaka.
Did you click something?